Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome to Sew with Mediva. And if you're a returning subscriber or a returning viewer, thank you for sticking to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to make this A-line button down dress with bell sleeves, and it also has elastic band at the back to give that snatched waist effect. And for this style, I made use of 5 yards of African print fabric. So if you find this video useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. So I made use of 5 yards of this beautiful African print because it's a long dress and it's a line, so you're going to need more fabric, and the sleeve is also a bell sleeve which consumes more fabric, and these are my other materials. So let's jump right into the tutorial. So we're going to start with the back panel of this dress, and I have my fabric opened up. So normally you fold your fabric like this, but because it's a long dress and the Ankara fabric is only 45 inches long, I'm going to be folding it the other way. So I'll be folding from the base to meet the top this way, as you can see. So normally you fold like this when you want to cut for a skirt or for a top, but now I'm going to be folding the other way so I can get my desired length for this dress. So this is what we have after folding. So after folding, I'm going to go ahead to measure what I have as the width of my fabric now, which is around 22.5 inches, and this is very okay for the A-line dress. It's going to fit any size. And then for the full length of my dress, I'm going to be working with 57 inches, and then I'll add 1 extra inch to it for the folding allowance. So I'm going to head to fold my fabric to the wrong side. So we're going to be marking on the wrong side of the fabric. After that, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out a starting line at the upper part of my fabric, which is going to serve as the shoulder line. So from this shoulder line, I'm going to mark all the vertical measurements I'll be needing. So the first one is from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10.5 inches. And the next measurement is from my shoulder to my waistline, my half length, which is 16 inches. And then I'll go ahead to extend the lines. So I'll also be needing the shoulder to the hip line. So for mine it is 24 inches. So go ahead to mark your own appropriate measurement. So I'll mark the 24 inches and then go ahead to extend the line. So the first line is the shoulder line. The second one is the bust line. This is the waistline and this is the hip line. So after doing that, I'll come over to the shoulder line. From the closed part of my fold, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurements divided by 2, which is 8 inches. And then from that same point, I'll take the width of the neckline, which is 3 inches, and the depth of the back neckline is 1 inch. I'll go ahead to connect the points together and then come down to that 8 inches point to take my shoulder slope of 1 inch. I'll come down by 1 inch and then connect it to meet the neckline. So from that shoulder slope, I'm going to come down to my chest line. To get your chest line, divide your round bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches to it. So for mine it is 8 inches, and then I'll connect the points together and further extend the line to create the chest line. After doing that, the next thing is to mark the round body measurement, and on the bust line I'll mark my round bust measurement divided by 4, which is 10.5 inches. I'll add 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance to make 12.5 inches. And on the waistline, I'll mark my round waist measurements divided by 4, which is 8.5 inches. I'll add 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance to make 10.5 inches. And then on the hip line, I'll mark the round hip measurements divided by 4. I'll add 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance to make 13 inches. So go ahead to mark your own correct measurements and then connect the points together. So from the bust line, I'll also extend it up all the way to the chest line. So right now, I'll come over to the base of my fabric, which is the full length of my dress, to create the A-line effect. But since the front panel is going to be having button allowance of 2.5, I'm going to come out by 2.5 inches from the open angle of my fold. So I marked 2.5 inches from the open angle of my fold, and then I'll go ahead to use my ruler to connect all the way from the base to the hip line, forming the A shape. So this is what I have after connecting together. So from this edge, I'm going to come up by 1 inch and just blend it in to the center of my dress this way. So we're going to be cutting out that part. So the last and final thing we want to do is to mark the armhole curve. So I'll get the midpoint of this line, which is 4 inches for me, and then go ahead to form a curve all the way to the chest line. This is basically all. Let's go ahead to cut it out. So I'll add half an inch to the shoulder for joining and then cut out the remaining parts. So guys, don't forget to support my channel by joining the Sew with Mediva membership. I'll leave the link pinned in the comment section. This is just a way to support my channel. Thank you. So after cutting out, I'll go ahead to fold another fabric into two and then use the back panel to cut it out. So this is for the front panel. I have my fabric folded into two. So for the button allowance in front, I'm going to come to the closed side of the fold and come out by 2.5 inches. So I'll mark 2.5 inches all the way down. So this button allowance of 2.5 inches is the reason why we took out the same 2.5 from the back panel. So I'll go ahead now to connect the points together. So after connecting the points, I will then take my back panel and place on this fabric now, directly on that line. So I'll go ahead to just arrange it very well. So the back panel now will fit perfectly into the remaining fabric. I hope you guys understand. So I'll start by marking the neckline. So the depth of the front neckline is going to be 3 inches. So I'll just come down by 3 inches this way and then connect it together. And then I'll go ahead to cut it out. So I'll also be adjusting the armhole area after I am done cutting. So after cutting out, I'll set the back panel aside and then get the midpoint of this armhole curve. Then go ahead to come in by half of an inch and just connect it. So this is the normal way to cut the armhole for the front. So I'll notch the point where I'll be having my button allowance. I'll notch where the allowance is going to stop and then I'll rip the center front opened. So if you want pockets for yours, the next thing you're going to do is to place the front and the back panels together this way and then notch the point where you'll be inserting your pocket. So I ended up not using pockets for mine, but I'll just show you guys how to do that. So for your pocket, you're going to come down from your waistline by 2 inches or 2.5 inches and then just notch it. So you attach your fabric pockets to all sides of your dress, both the front and the back, and then you close it up when you are closing up the sides. But I ended up not adding pockets to mine. So when you open up the front panel, this is what you will have. This is what it looks like. The next one we want to do now is to iron our stay to the button allowance. Go ahead to iron your stay, and after ironing, we're going to fold it twice. So the first thing you're going to do is fold by half an inch and then fold 1 inch so that it ends directly on that line. So you fold half an inch first and fold 1 inch. You can as well iron it down before you stitch. After ironing, go ahead to run a straight stitch all the way down to the full length, and I'll repeat the same process on the other side. I'll fold in twice, making sure the fold ends on that notched point, and then stitch it all the way down. So guys, after stitching, this is what we have. So the extra 1 inch are going to overlap on each other to serve as your button allowance. So the next one we want to work on is the elastic on the waistline of the back. So this is the back panel and we're going to be having elastic on the waistline to give it that snatched effect. So I'm going to flip it over down to the wrong side and come up 2 inches above the waistline I have marked earlier. So we're going to be using the shearing method for this, and then I'll come down by 2 inches, and then in between that point I'm going to mark half an inch all the way down. So in between it I'm going to mark half an inch. So I'll also repeat that same half an inch at the midpoint of the fabric, and then I'll go ahead to use my ruler to form a straight line this way. So we're going to be using our elastic thread to stitch on these lines. So I have a detailed video on how to share your fabric. I'm going to leave it in the description box and also in the comment section. So extend the lines this way. So after extending, I'm going to go ahead and get my elastic thread now and show you guys how to do it. So this is my elastic thread. So you're going to be replacing the thread inside your bobbin to this elastic thread. So just go ahead to manually roll your thread and fill up your bobbin. After filling up, you're going to fix it into the bobbin case just like you do for your normal thread. So the thread at the upper part of your machine is still going to be a normal sewing thread, and then go ahead to stitch on these lines. So after stitching on mine, this is what it looks like. You can see the elastic effect on the waistline already. The next thing we want to do is to join the front and the back panels together. So I'm going to place them right sides facing each other and close up the shoulders using half of an inch. After closing up the shoulders, I'll go over to the sides and then just close it up all the way down. So at this point, if you want pockets, you should have inserted your pocket fabric and just close it up all together. So guys, after joining the front and the back panels together, this is what it looks like. You can see the dress taking shape already. And this is what the back of the dress looks like. You can see how beautiful it looks. You can also go ahead to notch the inner seam of your dress so that it relaxes well on the right side and iron it very well. You can just notch the seam and iron it very well. So the next thing we want to work on is the sleeve, and we're going to be working with a simple bell sleeve. So I have my fabric for the sleeve cut out already and it's in a fold of 2. So I'll further fold it into 4 because I'll be cutting the 2 sleeves together. So the wideness of your fabric is determined by how wide you want your bell sleeve to be at the base. So for mine, after folding, the wideness of the fabric I have now is about 12.5 inches, which is okay for the width of my sleeve. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark out a starting line, which is going to be like the shoulder line. And then from that line, I'll come down to my cap's height, which is 4 inches. To get your cap's height, divide your bust measurement by 12 and add half an inch to it. And then I'll go ahead to extend the line. So on this line, from the completely folded part of my fabric, I'm going to mark my armhole measurements divided by 2, which is 8 inches. I'll add 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for seam allowance, and then connect the points together this way. After doing that, I'll get the midpoint of this line, which is around 5.5 inches, and then come up by half an inch to form a curve like this, and then come down by another half an inch to form another curve. So from that point, I'll just go ahead to form an A line all the way down to the base of my sleeve. So this is basically all for this sleeve. I'll go ahead now to cut it out. So by doing this, I've cut out the 2 sleeves already. So I'll just form a slight curve at the base like I did with my dress. So this is what we have after cutting. So I'll fold the sleeve this way, right sides facing each other. Go ahead to close it up using 1 inch. I'll also do the same thing for the other one and then finish up the base of the sleeve. So guys, after I turn over to the right side, this is what it looks like. I'm going to just notch the apex of the sleeve, which is the highest point, and then proceed to fix it to my dress. So this is my dress. I'm going to take the right side of my sleeve now and pass it in through the wrong side of the dress. So you pass your sleeve in through the wrong side of your dress this way, and then that apex that we notched, I'm going to measure it to the shoulder joining of my dress, and then I'll measure the sides together this way. So after fitting those 2 sides, I'm going to then use my pin to hold the sleeve and stitch it all around. So I'll insert the other sleeve and then I'll show you guys. So guys, I've notched the inner seam of my dress and ironed it out, and these are the sleeves after attaching. The next one we want to work on is the collar. So in my previous video, I showed you guys a detailed tutorial on how to make a simple cut together collar. So I'll leave the link in the description box and also in the comment section. So I'll go ahead to do that off camera and show you guys. So after inserting the collar, this is what we have. So we're almost done with this dress. I've also finished up the base of the dress by folding it twice and stitching down. So the last and final things to do is to insert the button and the buttonholes. So guys, this is what we end this video for today. I hope you guys found it useful and I hope you learned something new. So don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe to my channel.